We've had a couple of these with some entrepreneurs, some business folk, but today I get to talk to the lovely, 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 lovely Paula Pavkov. How you doing, Paula?
Hey guys, hey John, good to see you again.
It's always good to see me, right?
It's always good to see you. Yep.
All right, look, and we're not in the same room, so I did not force her to say that, which is awesome. Paula, we've done so many interviews. This is the first one that we've done on this platform called Industry Talk. So I'm so happy to have you here with us today. Everybody out there, give a virtual clap because she had a very busy day today, and she said nothing will stop me from getting on this Industry Talk.
I love it.
All out there. We're going to get into some things that you've done, some household names of projects and people you've modeled or walked for or shows that you've been on. But I want to talk a little bit about Paula and her path to becoming, one of the top runway models in the world.
Thanks,
You're
John.
humble, so you won't say that, so I'll say it for you.
Thanks, John. That's a great intro. I love it. Always, you always do such a good job.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm very excited to be here with you guys today. And yeah, I want to walk you through a little bit of what I have done in modeling, how I got it started, and I'm here today. So a little bit about me. I'm from Colombia originally, and I moved to the US about 5 years ago. And I moved initially to New York. That's where I started modeling. Right off the bat, I got an agency. Well, a little. Let's back it up a little more. So,
I was gonna say you made that look really easy. Show up agency. I was like, wait a minute.
no, let's back it up a little more. So, when I first came to the U.S., I came on vacation, normal, and I found this mother agency, Tina, in John Casablancas in Connecticut, and she was the one that helped me go through the whole process in finding an agency in New York, or at the moment, New York was the best market for me, but it really depends on on each person. And she wanted me to place me in New York because like there is more runways for sure. It's just the capital of fashion, so it's a good market to be in. So we went through the whole process of taking photos, building my book. I had to build my book from scratch. I had photos. I did a little modeling back in Colombia, but it was not the same as in the US. So I had to build my portfolio from scratch, literally doing test shoots, doing it all from the beginning. So I did a lot of that, and when I finally had my book together, I went and did a lot of castings for agencies, and at the moment, no, like nobody picked me. So that was just a downtime for me. I was just like, maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's difficult to get an agency right off the bat. So I went back to Colombia, and then Tina invited me back to IMTA. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's a really good convention for models, actors, all of it, singers too. And I went to this convention, and I actually won the most so after model after I went through the whole thing. It's actually a competition. You compete for swimwear, photo shoots, you do a lot of things. And I won the most so after model, meaning that a lot of agencies wanted me. So I was just shocked. I was, it was a lot. It was a lot to take, and we decided to go with New York models at the time, and they were the one that did my whole working visa and brought me to the States. So going
when
back to what was that?
when you once that how long did it take before you had to officially move to the United States?
So the whole process, it's interesting because the working visa that they give you, you have to prove that you are a big model for them to bring you to the States, pretty
Yeah.
much. So it took me a long time, I'll say about a year and a half.
Hmm.
And I was living in Colombia just waiting on this visa, pretty much, to
Mm.
move, to move. So it was a little bit of the waiting game.
What,
So, yeah.
what was the first big fashion designer that you had to, or just the first big project that you had to do, and how did you feel when you first heard that you booked that project?
One of a big campaign that I did right off when I started modeling was this Bobby Brown campaign for the cosmetics, and it was pretty. I don't know. The casting went really smooth, and the next thing I know, I'm booked for the campaign. So
Mhm.
it was really easy, and I was just like, I can't believe it. It just like that, I'm booked for it. It was pretty cool actually, and that was with one of my agencies in New York, and they were just like, Hey Paula, you're booked for Bobby Brown tomorrow. I'm just like that. I'm just like,
Isn't
I
it funny how they say it like it's no big deal, and you're like, wait, what?
no, you're about to drop. You're like, excuse me, I need to sit down. Yeah, like yeah.
So you went through that change of in the beginning, like and it's not rejection. We always try to tell people it's not that someone's rejecting you. Sometimes they might just like somebody else a little bit more, but it
Yeah.
feels like rejection. So you got to
No,
go
you
through that
take it
rejection.
personal for sure. You absolutely take it personal, and you feel that pain. You feel like, oh, they don't like me. So
Mhm.
you take it personal, but at the end of the day, I've learned a lot that it's not you, it's what they're looking for. So
Yeah,
they might be looking for a blonde. I'm not blonde. So what am I gonna do, right? So things like that. Yeah.
yeah. Paula. Contrary to belief, that gets me eliminated for so many projects because I'm not blonde, and I don't know how many times I've been looked over for not being blonde.
Exactly. Like, you can't take it personal at the end of the day. You have to, I've learned that it's just what, the casting director is looking for.
All
So,
right. FK says, I might have missed it, but how tall is Paula? You didn't miss it, FK. So we'll ask her now. Paula, how tall are you?
so I'm 5'11". I'm tall and skinny.
And what age did you reach 5'11"?
Um, I might have been, I don't know, maybe it was like a late start for me, honestly.
Okay.
I was like finishing high school. It was like 11th grade. So it was like I was late to the game. But, I've heard a lot of things. The models start pretty young, like 14, 13 sometimes, even younger. But I started when I was like 18, 19. So it was like a late start for me. But yeah,
The late start. It's not where you start, it's where you end up at that point, right?
there we go.
You're making it. I know you live in Los Angeles now.
I do now, yeah.
Um, talk about that. So you've gone from Colombia to New York to Los Angeles. Those are pretty big leaps.
I know, right? So a little bit about that. So right before the pandemic, not related to the pandemic, not knowing the pandemic was coming, I moved to LA with my husband,
Hmm.
and it's a whole new market out here in LA. It's pretty commercial. It's a lot of outdoor activities, outdoor clients.
Uh-huh.
So it is a different market. And I was more used to the runways, more lookbooks, more photo shoots inside studios and stuff like that. So it took me a little bit to get used to the market and finding the right client for me.
Hmm.
So what I compared to New York, where I was doing a lot of runways and a lot of the lookbooks, now I do also runways, but a little more private, like a little, like smaller versions of the runway, but also like a lot of fittings. And if somebody doesn't know here what fittings are, is what happens before the collection launches. So you do a lot of I'm the fitting model
Hmm.
for a lot of the for a lot of the clients that go back to New York and present their show. So all of the runway pieces get fitted before it actually goes live. So stuff like that. So
What are some of the bigger designers that you've done fittings for?
some of them has been Versace, Max Mara, Rodarte. So all of them take the collection back to New York, but it's crazy. Nobody sees me on the fitting here doing it.
Right, yeah, you're here. No, fitting it. That's funny that you list Versace as first because that's the title of this episode, from small towns to
Mm.
Versace gowns. I like the sound of that. Very. Was your accent heavier when you first came?
Oh yeah. I was not able to even speak any English at all. I was very shy,
Oh,
and I could understand all of it because
mhm.
back in school that was my second language, what they teach you.
Okay.
But uh you don't have anybody to practice with.
Mhm.
So you
Did that
do.
affect your confidence level in the beginning
Yep.
at
Yep.
all?
That was a huge part of getting started in New York. I
Mhm.
would go to castings and I know what they were asking me, but I didn't have the confidence to really talk with anybody. So, it took me a little bit, 6 months or so to get used to the rhythm of New York, getting out there. And once you book the first job, everything just starts coming. So you definitely have to break the shield of booking the first job and knowing how the market works to really get used to things.
If anyone watching, if you have questions for Paula, just go ahead and put them in the instant chat, the live chat, and we will go ahead and ask those questions. Now, I know me and you have talked about this a million times, and of course, we got a lot of people here that have never heard these type of stories. Let's talk about Project Runway for a second, then I'll leave you alone about it. Well, I know you were on a season and a half. The first season you were on, you came in for half a season, but they liked you so much they asked you back for a whole season. Let's talk about how you felt when you got the call to be on Project Runway.
Well, these casting for Project Runway, they actually do it during New York Fashion Week. So
Mhm.
you almost go to a casting as if you were doing it for any other designer. So you don't really know that it's for Project Runway. And they don't even call it Project Runway. It's just like a casting that you go to. So they try to keep it very low key so nobody gets like, super excited about it, I think. I don't know. And when you go to this casting, they measure you all, like every part of your body, like your wrist, because they're looking for models that fit their clothes that the designers are making. So they, my neck, like literally everything, John, like
Mhm.
my head, all of it. It was so weird. I was just like, what is this casting for? It's so random.
Measuring in my ears, my
All
hair.
of it. And I was
What's
like,
going on?
it's going on, exactly. So, like the length of your arms, all of it. So you are like, what's going on? Anyways, after the casting, you wait for like 2 weeks, and then my agency just kind of like told me, hey, you are like on hold for Project Runway. And I was just like, wait, that was the casting I went for? I wasn't even sure. Like, it was so weird. And of course, the agencies usually let you know, but I don't think they even tell the agencies what's for. They just try to keep it really low key, and it's cool. It's like it's building up the energy. And after that, you go to the set, and it's usually pretty long days, about 12 hours a day. And sometimes you're standing, just waiting there, and
In those heels all day,
yeah,
ladies.
all day.
All of you from class, and I tell you, when you're standing up for 5 minutes and you start complaining that your feet hurt, and I'm like, you
Mhm.
gotta get through it. Because
Oh yeah,
I
no.
was telling you, she spent some 12-hour days in heels.
That was the toughest part. At first, I was just like, whew, getting used to it, and just you're standing there while, and you cannot move because sometimes they break and they gotta start over where they left off. So you
Mhm.
gotta stay right where you left. So you're like, was it here? So it's definitely different than the usual like kind of runway that you will do,
Mhm.
but it's fun. You have a lot of fun, and you build up like a fun community with the models that you work with and stuff like that. So
What
it's
season was that you did the half season? Because I always get all the seasons mixed up. It was either 16 or 17, something.
so yeah, it was the finale show that I did for season 16, and then the whole season of the 17 that I
Right.
was on.
That's
Yeah.
when they asked you to come back. I'm gonna show a clip.
Oh,
I
it's good.
let's show a clip and see.
Cool. Yeah.
All right.
My girl,
My
my
girl.
girl. I'm loving the print, but seeing some of these
I'm loving the
other
print,
looks,
but seeing some
I
of these
feel as though I
other
should have went a little
looks,
bit more
I feel as though
editorial
I
with
should have went a
mine.
little bit
I
more
just hope the judges
editorial
still
with mine.
appreciate
I just hope the judges still appreciate
looks.
it.
I love it. I just love your I love your look too. You have so many. If anyone goes to your Instagram or to your Facebook, you have so many different looks where it actually looks like you change ethnicities. I've seen pictures of
That's
you
funny.
where you have a little Asian look to you.
Oh, I've heard this so many times, John. That's so interesting that you said that. Yep.
That clip right there. I mean, if you didn't tell me and I didn't hear you talk, I wouldn't know that you could tell me that you were Asian in that clip, and that's very good.
Yeah.
For that, let's talk about that. Because I don't know how many big designers you had worked for up until that point, but talk about actually walking out there and that feeling. Do
It's nerve-wracking, and it's
you remember?
quite.
Do you
Yeah,
remember that clip? Do you remember that day?
I remember that day,
Talk
and
about that day.
yeah, of course, of course. So it's actually, so we do two runs. So the first run through, it's literally quiet, no music, and you hear your heels. You can literally hear your walk, and the judges are there watching. So it was I think it was Carly Kloss that season.
Mhm.
She was so nice. Anyways, but Kristen Siriano was there too, and you can hear your walk, literally your heels going on, and you're just like everybody's watching you at the time. So you're like, your heartbeat is crazy. And yeah, so I remember, and the designer was super nervous that time too. So
Mhm.
you are not only carrying your walk, that you have to do it well, but you're also, the designer is right there watching you too. So he's hoping that you do well too, that everything looks good. And, ultimately his design looks awesome for the judges. So then the second round, it's with music, and if everything goes well, you don't have to do a third. But if not, you might do another round with the music and all of that. So
Well, for those who don't know, the unique thing about Project Runway, it's not just about you. The show is actually about designers,
yeah,
and then they paired them up with runway models like you. So, how are you feeling during that process, not knowing which designer was going to pick you? And then once the one picked you, how did you feel?
It's fun, and they fight for models. They're like, no, I want her because she walks good and she presents my clothes amazing too. So it's definitely a relationship that you build,
Mhm.
and they fight for models. It's crazy too, and they don't know what time it is. They are like all like disoriented, so they don't really know much. So you cannot really, yeah. They like as isolated. They isolate them in a room, so they don't really know much what's going on outside. And you cannot tell them either, like what you cannot tell them what time it is. We can bring watches into the set, like stuff like that.
You've
So
been
it's
there
pretty.
for hours and you don't know what time of day it is. You walk out, you don't know if the sun's out or
No,
if it's dark.
nothing.
The gentleman that was talking, was that your designer or was that one of the judges?
I believe that was one of the designers. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. For those of you who just popped in, because I saw a bunch of people popped in, I'm going to show the clip one more time, and then we'll go back to talking to Paula. I just watch you at the end. You probably see what I mean by
My girl.
the Asian look at the end.
Sure, sure.
I'm loving the print.
I'm
Seeing
loving the
some of these
print,
other
but seeing some of
looks,
these other
I feel as though I
looks,
should have
I
went a
feel
little
as
bit
though
more
I should have went a little bit more
editorial
editorial
with
with
mine.
mine. I just hope the judges still appreciate it.
How does it feel when you're walking and there's no reaction to the judges looking at you? They're just all stone faced looking at you.
No, they try not to be emotional because they don't want to share much emotion too. They want to save it all for like when they do like the verdict and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, I like FK. FK's asking some great question. He said, "Is there a typical career trajectory for a runway fitting model?"
That's a really good question, actually. Yeah. It's there is not like a path you follow, really, that you do this first and then you become this, fitting slash runway model. It's more of trying things out almost.
Mhm.
Like, if you really like, I love the runway personally, and I really, I love walking the runway. But what if you were not getting that many jobs in run? What if I was not getting that many jobs in run as as a runway model? You kind of have to switch it up and maybe try another path. Maybe be a fitting model. Maybe be more like a lookbook slash ecom model. So you almost have to try it out for yourself and see what you're good at and what you ultimately get hired on. Um, because you want to be able to make money on it, absolutely. You want to be able to be live out of modeling. And I get that question too a lot, if as a model you can live just by modeling. And the answer for me will always be yes. I did, I still do full-time modeling. um, and you can definitely live from it. So
I mean, it opens so many doors, and it's not. You don't just do runway. You've done print. You've done it all.
yeah.
And the professionalism at work. And I talked about this for a little bit because I talk about it for a lot. There's a lot of people who have the ability to be a model based on their looks, but there's a
Yeah.
lot more that goes into that. It's not just, oh my God, you're handsome and pretty, you can be a model. Talk about some of those other qualities you need to be a successful model.
For sure, for sure. I mean, not only, as a, like your physical look, but also being on time always, being professional at the job. Um, those two are really go hand in hand with being, having like a good look for a model. And being on time is one of the like a key point that I really try, like not try to apply but apply it all the time, because it's a job that you're showing on. So you have to be on time, be professional, and always have like a clean look, like your nails be clean, like just an overall, like it's a job that you're doing after all. And I was gonna say, John, like there are so many modeling jobs too. Like I met a model the other day that does hand modeling, and that's all she does. Hand modeling. I was just like, wow. She every week she's literally doing hand modeling. So I was like, very
You
cool.
never see her, you just see her hands, but hey, she's doing
Exactly. And she shows me all of these photos of her hands. I'm just like, I mean, there is a job for everybody out there, honestly. So it's cool.
Tyler Moore has a great question. How difficult was it on the social aspect of moving to a new place within the industry? Because we've talked about it earlier. You went from
Yeah.
Colombia to New York to Los Angeles, and every time you move to a new place, you've got to socially, unless you're just a hermit, you've got to socially get acclimated with each place. How was that for you?
Right. No, it's definitely difficult, I will say, and especially when I moved from Colombia to New York, there was a cultural shock a lot. So it took me a while to get used to it. Not only the fast pace from New York, but also the people and the culture, all of it. It takes a while to get acclimated, but ultimately you get used to the type of work and stuff like that. But I would say from New York to LA was even that was a tough one too. Just doing the change from the type of work to the type of people around the work. Like I remember one time in New York, you get probably like a half hour break when you do any kind of modeling. But here in LA, you get an hour, a full hour break.
You're spoiled now.
Well, I'm just like, what? I remember the first few jobs, I'll be like ready, like, okay, guys, like I'll be hurrying up the client. I'll be like, okay, I'm ready. Like I'm ready. Like I'm ready to get going. So the energy is definitely different, and that social aspect just changes. Everybody's so like welcoming and nice. Like take a seat if you need to, and like different from New York. When you go to work in New York, you have to be on point. You
Yeah.
have to be ready to work the full 8 hours. So
Oh, yeah. They're like, slow down. We'll get there. Slow
it
down.
is so funny. They're like, Paula, take your full hour. Don't worry. And they even give you extra 15 minutes. Don't worry. It's fine.
Take advantage of that. James Miller asks, how often do you practice your walk so you can have the same technique every time? Because I'm sure there's people out there like, oh, you've been on Project Runway, you've modeled for Versace, you've got it. You don't practice anymore. You just show up and do it.
No, practice like makes a master. They say so. It takes at least once or twice a month. I try to practice, but if you are doing runways often, you get to practice. You get to practice too. So, but if you are not working as often, you definitely have to practice at least once a week.
Well, you
So
also have to practice for different styles depending on where you're going. If
that's true.
you've got to go to Europe. If you're doing it in New York, if you're doing it in the South, like there's different techniques to
Yeah,
walking,
that's true. Yeah.
and also one thing that's always funny to do when I'm doing a practice is when I change up the tempo of the music, people get all messed up. That's something you got to get used to too, right? Practicing to different
Yeah.
tempos.
And you never know what kind of music you're gonna have on the runway.
Yeah.
Only when you're doing like the rehearsal, like half hour before the actual show. So you kind of have to like be ready to switch up your walk or.
Have you ever had it when you're walking and the music just changes tempo in the middle?
Yes, no, yes. So you have to like, okay, what am I doing now in the middle of it? But yeah, no,
My
definitely. It
my
takes,
ex my ex-wife had a really good tool. I asked her, I said, "What do you do when the music changes up in the middle of your routine?" She said, "If the music changes in the middle of my routine, I stop and do a couple of poses, and then I start walking to that music." And I was like, "Ah."
she makes the whole change right then. I love it. Yeah, that's a good one actually. That's
You,
awesome. Yeah.
you talked about being on time, and hey, I like the self-awareness. Smoke Daddy says, "I got to do better, being on time." Yeah. Um,
Yeah, and even being on time is key. Not only, shows you like as a responsible model, but professionalism also. You have to be there on time, and you don't have to be there a whole half hour before. Just 15 minutes before will do. Just making sure if you're driving to park and just be there 15 minutes before. You're riding the elevator, just be there 15 minutes before, ready. High heels on, like ready kind of thing. No, like
I'd always say you got to know yourself, right? You know how much time you need. I'm always super early because I get tired of going to places and the GPS takes me to the place, but the place is like really 5 minutes away. And now I'm
exactly.
like,
Oh,
now I'm gonna be late. So it's kind of
yeah, that feeling is not good. You're like, oh, if it's the first time too working for the client or something, you don't want to be late. You want to be on time.
yes.
So, yeah.
FK says, what stage or maybe quartile is Paula in, or and where does she see herself going? Okay,
Mm,
so Paula, I mean, you've that's a good question because you've done some big things from some big designers, but I like your attitude of, okay, I haven't made it yet. I still got a lot to go. Uh,
Yeah, that's a great question. And even I was working last week and I was talking with the designer and she was asking me how was my year overall as a model too. And I told her, it's crazy. I thought I was slowing down, but this 2022 was my best year ever
mhm.
as a model. And I just realized, looking back, I went 2 times to Italy, like to work and work with the same, with this designer, which is Giorgio Armani.
Mhm.
And just going there, uh, out of just literally my first time, and he hired me the first time too. So it was pretty amazing. And I thought, well, maybe things are slowing down a little bit after COVID or something. But this year was the best for my career in general. So it's good, and it shows me that there's still work for me out there.
You know why I'm laughing, right? You
I
don't know why I'm laughing, do you?
no, I'm not.
The Armani one, because you remember we were supposed to have a phone conversation. You were going to call me, and then you text me, John, I can't do the thing we were going to talk about.
Oh yeah,
I've got to go to Georgia Armani, and I gave you a hard time. I was like, really? You're going to pass me up to go do something for Armani?
remember that?
You're like apologizing to me. I'm like, get out of here. Go do your thing. What are you apologizing to me for?
That was so busy. It was such a busy time too. Like I'm just like I need to focus on this. So it was nice, and I see myself definitely working here in LA a lot and possibly going back to Europe. For me, it went really well in Europe, and I have an agency in New York too that is always booking me out there. So I'm between New York and LA and possibly Milan. So let's see where
Right?
things go
Awesome.
from there.
You always know I got to give you a hard time. Hey, if you're gonna change plans on me, it better be something big, and it was. So
Mm.
so that was okay. Tasme says, do you have any other passions outside of modeling you are wanting or thinking about pursuing in entertainment or otherwise? So what is there about Paula? We've learned a lot
On
about.
the other side of Paula, nice. That's a good question. Yeah, I get this question a lot actually. And right when I moved from New York to LA, there was like a downtime with COVID and all of that, and I actually enrolled. I wanted to do this so bad in New York, but New York was so busy for me. I literally had a job like with modeling 9 to 5 every day. I was working for an e-commerce brand, Moda Operandi, back in New York, and it was like a full-time job. 9 to 5, I'll go every day as a e-commerce, like as their house model for e-commerce. So I had no time at all. So I really wanted to enroll in university at the time, but I had to let it go for a little bit until I found the time to do it. And that downtime during COVID, I was able to enroll in university. I graduated, and I'm on the side. I do marketing for a company called All World, and that's what I do on the side. So it's kind of my passion. Yeah, I
I'm
like
waiting.
that.
I'm waiting to start seeing you in commercials. That's what I'm waiting on. That's gonna be so much
That
fun.
one's coming slowly. That one's getting there, but sometime.
You
Not
already know when you do your first big commercial, already expect a text with a whole line of critiques from me.
That's gonna be no. I don't
Well,
know.
I won't do that because you might find a video of me somewhere on social media of me doing a runway walk, and then you'll send me a whole list of critiques.
Okay, I gotta look for that one for
No, no, no,
sure.
no, look, and no one send it to her. Or else. Tequila, I know you're watching. Don't send Paula any of my runway walk videos. All right. Tyler Moore says, how important is it? How important has it been to you living in the same city you're getting casting is? Is it crucial for you to be local? You know what? That's a good question because for a model, it's a lot different than an actor. You know.
Yep.
So from the modeling side, talk about that a little bit.
It's definitely it's good to be local if you want to, have like a good client that hires you all the time. But I have model friends that come for seasons and they come here to LA for like the busy season, let's say, I don't know, from April to August kind of thing. And they still work a lot. So there is definitely a busy time for each city. I know New York might be beginning of the year and also like September. So if you want to come, like go for seasons to a city, you definitely have to be local there for at least 6 months. Like when I went to Milan, I was there for almost 3 months, and You
I
always,
remember. Yeah.
yeah, it always takes time to build, like, you're going to the castings and they get to know you, and then they see you working for another person. They're like, oh, she's here, so let's book her. And it always takes like a good 3 months or 3 to 6 months to like get like some clients. And the next season when you come back, they know you already, so they're like, oh, she's back. Okay, let's. And major cities like New York, different cities in Europe and stuff like that, they know like models come for seasons too, so they are open for that too.
It's
So.
funny. I think now that you've been here, you've done less modeling work in South America than you probably should be doing.
Exactly. I'm just like, wow.
That is
So,
kind of funny. James Miller says, with modeling and acting, which one takes more preparation, or I say is more intense? You know what? You're going to pit me and Paula against each other, but
mhm.
basically, I think Paula's going to say the same thing I am. It really just depends on who you are,
Yep.
which one's more intense.
Personally,
Hmm.
to me, it takes a lot more to do acting.
Hmm.
You will say I'm not shy, but I'm shy with that camera. With the video camera, I am. I don't know why. Like the photo, like the photography, I'm good, but the videography, I'm like, no, I need my time. So
Well,
for me,
yeah.
it definitely takes more time
Mhm.
and preparation to do the acting.
Well, that's that switch off, right? You're such a great model, and then it's the verse for me. I'm fine with the acting, but when I have to actually go do some modeling stuff, that's the thing that's intense for me. Even though I coach it, when it's time for me to do it, I'm like, oh.
It's funny, yeah. I know that you do so well in coaching.
Smoke Daddy says send them. Send what? No, Smoke Daddy, we're not sending my videos. This is Paula's. You want to watch her clips in Project Runway and some of the other things she's doing. By the way, some of you who just joined, we're not taking a break, but I want to show the video that everyone saw that was in the waiting when we were getting ready to start. So let's show that really quick. It's only about 50 seconds, and we'll get back to talking to Paula.
All right, let's see it.
I just love the get out of the way look that you had as soon as you hit the runway. Like, everybody get out of the way. I'm here.
That's awesome. That's a good video though. I have to update. I have a few other ones that I want to put in there. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, don't worry. We're gonna get the updates. You know what? I really like you in flowy outfits. I never thought about that until I saw that video. I've seen you, of course, walk before, but you really work those flowing outfits. And the one thing that I want you to talk about when I saw that, one of the things that I saw that I
Yeah.
see a lot of ladies messing up with, especially starting out, is not understanding what type of undergarments to have with certain
Mhm.
outfits.
That's interesting. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so one thing they always ask you to bring, or either, of course, you always have to bring it, but have it ready. It's to have like the nude underwear for
Mhm.
sure, and options to have like a strapless bra for women. Always to have like the strapless bra, because you never want to be seen like the line from the bra and stuff like that. But sometimes they do have it for you at the show because they want to make sure that nothing is showing, so they hand it to you, like they give it to you. But it's good to like have always like the black, white, and the nude options with you everywhere you go. Same with the heels.
Yeah.
Heels, I have a problem. I'm very tall. I'm 5'11", but my shoe size is 7.5. I have, yeah, it's a tough.
I thought you wore 13s.
No, I'm like 7.5, and most of the shoes they always have are 9.
Mhm.
So I always bring my shoes just in case. But I do have some trouble with, I always have to stuff my shoes and, I bring socks, extra socks, because that's the only way the stuffing works on the heels, like a stilettos and stuff like that.
You're the one who always got talked to me about model bags because I knew the basic things to have
Yeah.
a model bag, and I feel like your model bag is like from Harry Potter because the amount of things that you tell me is in your little model bag. I'm like, how is all of that in there? That's not what you put.
Exactly. That's what I am curious to. But no, definitely having those key things like water, snacks. You never know, like, get things get delayed, you start late, you don't want to be passing out like in the middle of the line and stuff like that.
Right. See,
But
everybody, that's a myth. Paula eats.
a
She,
lot.
oh yeah,
You wouldn't believe it, a lot.
she can. I've heard you can eat. I've heard you can throw down on some food, so that's pretty amazing.
But
So,
you have definitely, you definitely have to eat and be ready.
yeah, it's not the '80s anymore where they just give you a cube of cheese for the day and say let's keep going, right?
Oh no. Oh no.
Smoke Guy says I'm more comfortable with acting than modeling, and that's okay. Smoke Guy, we always say it's so good to be well rounded because there's so many models who never planned on being on TV. And there's so many actors who never planned on, but what are you going to do when you're a big time actor? And they're like, you got to go do this GQ shoot. You got to go do this. You got to go do that. You don't want that to be your first time being comfortable in it. So it's so good to be
Exactly.
well rounded. Taz has a question for you. Have you ever had a client give you a harsh critique or say something shocking that really stings personally, but you try not to show it? If so, how do you handle it?
Wow.
Because
Wow, wow, wow. That's a really good question.
everybody doesn't critique the same, right?
No, 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 no. And that's such a good question though, because you definitely have the two sides where there's you know, one client that just tells you right then, oh, you're so thin, but they kind of laugh about it, and you're like, okay, but how do I take this? You're like, are you telling me that I don't fit your clothes, or I don't work, or what's going on? You have to balance, like, really filter that emotion to what extent you want to react, but you can't react that strongly
Yeah.
unless it's very personal, right? But and on the other side, you have the ones that are really going to you. Like I had this one shoot where this photographer, she was being very strong with me, and all she kept telling me is like, "Oh, you gotta stop your Latin body," and I'm just like that has nothing to do with what we're doing here. So I told her I was from Colombia, but I've been living in whatever for a long time in the U.S. But she's like, she will stop the whole shoot and say, "You gotta stop your Latin body," and I'm just like, I have no idea what you mean by that.
Your laughing party?
Latin, like Latina Latin body, and I'm just like,
Well, my Latin body? Like, what do you? I'm Latin. What do you want me to do with it?
exactly. I'm just like, you're being rude right now. Like this is just not cool anymore. So at that point, I kept quiet. I didn't say anything, but that was getting into me. I'm just like, she's being rude right now. Like I don't know what she's doing. So I just had to like don't forget about it and keep going with the shoot. But at the end of it, I just called my agency. I said, never send your models to this ever again. She's just rude. She's just like not cool. So you have those two sides where one client is nice and it's like, oh, you're so thin, but fits good on you kind of thing. But then the other one is just like aggressive and just like offensive at the end of the day.
I'm just still stuck on. You have to stop your Latin body. Like, what? That's like me doing a shoot, and they're like, "Pause. Can you stop being black for 2 seconds?" Like, what? What?
Like, it was offensive at the end of the day. She was not joking around. She was being very serious about it. I'm just like, I wouldn't say anything,
And you didn't even get an explanation to what that even meant. Like, 'cause you're
No,
talking about the way
no, I
I
can't.
clothes or
And I'm just like going, moving on, but I couldn't. That one was just getting on me. I was just like, she's being rude, right? Yeah, yeah,
you know how hard that would be for almost most people to maintain. Like sometimes people don't get it. I know people will do something wrong, but
yeah.
always be the one to maintain your professionalism and
Exactly.
never let them take you out of character. Let them be the ones to show their unprofessionalism. Now you went back and told someone, "Don't send your models here." You
Right. What I told, that's what I said. I said, look, you can never send your models here again. She's just very, and even the girl before, she was shooting, it was for my agency too.
know,
And she was kind of like down and sad after her shoot before I came in. So I was just like, what's going on
what's
here?
going on?
Yeah, it was
Part of
just,
that, things are gonna happen. Like Paul was saying, you got to take it with a grain of salt, and you just know never to do business with that person, and you move on because look where you are now, right? Ha ha ha! With your Latin body, right?
it is so funny, John. Yeah, you just have to move on. You can't do much about it, but
Right. Right.
yeah.
So if you have any more questions, go ahead and get them in because we're going to wrap up soon. But right now, we're going to do a little piece, and everyone who's watched any of the spotlights or industry talks that I've done, we always do a part where we highlight the guest and allow them a little time, however they like, to talk to you about either some tips they have for you or some motivational things that they would like to express to you. And right now, we're going to take a moment to. Oh, hold on a second.
Oh,
Yep, the whole thing just went away. Okay, there we go. All right, and right now we're going to take a second to go ahead and let Paula just give you some words of wisdom from her. Here she is.
all right. So, a few tips or words from me will be to always keep pushing for what you really want to accomplish. With modeling, it doesn't matter if you would just want to do it for, part time, full time, however you want to do it, always be professional and, you know, keep grinding on it. It's not easy, it's never easy with anything in life, but um, as I said earlier, I thought for sure things were slowing down with me, like with modeling a little bit. But when I look back, beginning of this year, it was so busy for me. So you always have to keep planting those seeds for what's coming next for you. So keep on it.
Paula says you got to keep on keeping on. I love it. I love every interview I've ever done with you. It's always insightful. It's always fun. And so, how long have you lived in LA now?
It's going on 4 years. Next year, we're almost done with, next year will be 4 years.
Uh-oh, Paula. I think you're gonna love this question. Okay.
Uh-oh.
I think
Okay.
you're gonna love this question. I don't think you were expecting this question, but since you moved there fairly recently, you might be able to answer this. If Paula were to go to Colombia just to dine, eat for a week, where would she go? That also is going to help anybody listening who's planning on going to
This
Colombia.
is awesome.
Jay is asking for a friend.
She said, I love it. This is awesome. Okay. Recommendations for sure, for sure, for sure. Okay, you have to go to Cartagena.
Okay, Cartagena.
That's like a beach town. You will absolutely love it. I don't know exact restaurants there, but Cartagena for sure. Barranquilla, which is my hometown, I'll definitely welcome everybody there. It's beautiful. You will love it. That's where Shakira is from, if you know who Shakira is.
Ah,
Yes, Sofia Vergara as well. So, and lastly, Medellin, which is closer to the mountains, center of Colombia. You will absolutely love it. It's like I'm not gonna compare, but like California. It's like sunny and warm every day. So we don't have seasons in Colombia, so it's always warm. So if you like the warm, that's a place to be.
hey, listen, that's like me being from Miami. Winter, we call it winter, but is it really winter? Is it
Mm,
really winter? No, it's not. Right.
It's a few, yeah. It gets cooler here in California too, and everybody wears their jackets.
Yeah.
But it's
What's been your favorite? I know you live in LA. What's been your favorite part about living in California? And so we don't run out of time, I'm going to pause my question because I want to ask a question that was asked in the chat
okay.
from Tasmay. During your time as a model, what are some changes to the industry you have noticed that may encourage others to get into the industry? Oh, yeah, because you've been in it for a little minute now, so you've seen some
Yes.
solutions and changes.
Absolutely. So a few changes I've seen for good are the inclusivity in the shows. I did one show for Delta the other day, and they had so many like different type of models, which I absolutely loved. Like, there were models with disabilities, models, from every size, type, body, all of it, which is pretty amazing. I thought that was very inclusive. So things like that, and it's like Delta Airlines, which is a big company too. So I'm just like, they're bringing it on, so everybody should follow. So that's something that I've seen change throughout the years. Really good. Same in Europe. I've seen that a lot. These two times I've been there.
I know one thing my ex-wife always talked about. She loved the evolution of nutrition. How, like when she started, you basically starved yourselves, and now knowing how to eat and exercise and regulate and do all of that, she's like it got so much healthier for
Mm.
her. Tyler Moore says, "Is there any major advice you would give to someone who is wanting to model full time in high fashion or as a runway model? Because that's something you did before, or well, you're doing now, but something
I
that
think part of that has to do a lot with the agency you're with. As an example, I'll say this: when I first moved to LA, I was with an agency that was sending me a lot to more commercial show, like more commercial castings, a lot of acting, and it was not my strong side. So I was not booking anything for almost a year. I was not doing much. So I switched agencies, and this agency really found me those clients that are more like my body type, that are looking for tall, models that are not very common here in LA. So things like that really go. You have to find that agency that pushes you specifically for the clients that will book you right away. So
well,
that's yeah, that's a good one. I mean, you have to find that agency and the agent that likes you for sure. Yeah.
here's a spicy question. If you weren't a model, what job profession would you have?
If I
Ooh,
was not a model,
yeah. I know you're not working at Target, uh, but I could see you being, I don't know.
I don't think you would guess this one, John. I don't think so.
I don't think I would. Like, I can't. I'm trying to picture. I was gonna say school teacher, but then I don't know. You have such a good personality, which is great because I know a lot of people think high fashion models are like they're all divas, right? I know you have a great personality. I'm not gonna guess it. Well,
Oh well, I always wanted to be a chef when I was growing up.
I should have. Well, you eat so much. Why did I think of that?
I always wanted to be a chef growing up, and I think that's what I was ready to enroll in school back in Colombia before I even started modeling. So
Ah, okay. So next time I come to LA, we ain't eating out. You're just gonna have to cook for me.
there you have it. I love cooking. I love cooking. So absolutely yes.
I missed you last time. So I got to make up for it. Guys, we got a couple minutes left, so get those questions in. Tyler Moore back again says, "What is one of the biggest mistakes you made during your career, and how did you learn from that?" Uh-oh, I get to hear about Paula.
Ooh, let me think about it. Okay, okay, okay. I would say I've had a few down times with agencies where I get the agencies, but they are not this. They don't send me to the best castings. You know what I mean? Like I was saying earlier, this one agency when I first moved to LA were sending me to the wrong casting. But I was such a believer of the agency, like I wanted it to work so badly that I wouldn't leave. It took me a whole year to realize that this is not working. So I was just like, okay, finally I moved on from it. But I think that, it was like a downtime for me that where I could have been working really good here in LA. So
We
stuff.
always talk about the relationship. It's not just it can be the greatest agency in the world, but is it a fit for you? And
Yeah,
everybody out there, remember, the first agent you sign with is not going to be your agent forever. It may be. I mean, there's some people that have been with an agency their entire career, but that's
absolutely.
not the norm. Oh,
Yeah.
here's a good question because I know a lot of people part-time model, but since you're more of a full-time model,
Mhm.
Kyrie says, "How do you adjust professional and personal life?" Because we and you were talking earlier, like there's a couple times we were supposed to do something, but then either I had to do something because it was busy, and then you. So how do you maintain that balance of your profession?
So, I had to split it up. When I first moved to New York, I was fully focused on modeling. So I put my professional life, like my personal life, a little bit aside. So I was modeling full time.
Mhm.
But then when I moved to LA, it was such a different vibe. Here in LA, everything shuts down during the weekend. So you definitely have that personal life. And every the culture is just like you don't work during the weekend. So it definitely also depends where you are, but balancing that time too, like when I was studying here in LA and I also had to work as a model, I was still modeling full time. I had to decide like what I'm, like how do I divide and conquer? Like I wanted to do both and graduate and start working as a marketing director, or, in the marketing field, which I love. So I had to divide and conquer too. Like even going to Milan, I was also working as a marketing for a company, but I was doing it online and going to castings during the day and taking classes at 2 a.m. because it was 6 p.m. here in LA. So you definitely have to divide and make sure you put first what you want to accomplish. So I didn't start studying right away when I moved to New York, but I postponed it. And when I started, I was like, I have to finish now. Like take some time, but you definitely have to learn to divide and put the priorities, in front of you. Yeah.
And that's another one of those things that knowing yourself too, because I know some people that love that grind 7 days a week. They need to be out there
Absolutely.
going
Yeah.
wire to wire, and I am not. I used to be that person. I am not that person anymore. And I do know, like the LA culture, they will work it from Monday to Friday, and then after Friday, it's like, all right, everybody, get out of here.
Yeah, it's true. Everybody's like, it's true, and it's good because I've seen that. I saw when I moved from New York. I was like, okay, there is a life behind the work, which I absolutely love. It's a good culture to like implement life versus work. Yeah.
All right, Tasme says, has there been times that you had to turn down jobs because your gut said this is not for you, outside of already being booked? And how important is it to choose wisely? Because I know, in the industry, we try to say once you book it, get through it, and just know not
Right.
to work with that person again. But have you ever had to turn down a job before you were booked after a certain point? Like,
Yeah. Actually, there was one time, and it kind of hurt because there was this one hair campaign that they wanted to dye my hair, but it would change my whole book. So I had to decide if, and it was good money, So I was just like, should I do it? But then that like resets the whole process I've done, like cutting my hair short and dyeing it. Like I start from zero again. Like my whole book, it's trash, literally. So I have to start again, and that takes a whole year at least to get new photos with the new look, get the clients, oh, Paula, I got a new look, check it out, and stuff like that, and they either hate it or like it. So you have to like, that's a tough choice. That was a tough choice. I ended up
oh,
doing.
because this wasn't one of those things like, because I've had to do that before when I did have hair. This wasn't one of those instances like, hey, we need you to cut and dye your hair for this one particular thing, and that's it. It was going to be an ongoing thing, and you're like, ooh, that's a lot of it.
No, it affected my whole book. It affected my whole clientele that I already had, like it's stuff like that. My New York Fashion Week was coming. I was just like, should I do it or no? I ended up doing it though.
Oh, did you?
I did. Yeah, I got bangs and short my hair.
Whoa, I gotta find those pictures.
Yeah, right there on my Instagram. It was a hit, John. That look was great for Europe. It was crazy. Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, Paula, it was great having you on here. We're streaming to three different channels. Always great interviewing you. I look forward to doing another interview sometime next year
Absolutely.
when both of us get some time. It's always a pleasure, always knowledgeable, uh, and teaching everyone to have great personality along with responsibility and just continuing to grab your dreams. Thank you for the personal message on the spotlight. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And everyone out there, if you came in towards the end, just rewind it back and watch it from the beginning. Paula Pavkov, Coach John, or Keone, however you know me. You guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you on the next industry talk.
Thank you guys. Thank you, John. Such a pleasure always.
Always. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.